The movie begins with Ariel, a passionate journalist working at a media house. Her dream is to become a celebrated writer, but lately, things haven't been going her way. The news cycle is dry, nothing exciting is happening, and as a result, their magazine isn't getting much attention. Sales are dropping, pressure is rising, and Ariel is desperate for a breakthrough story. Then, suddenly, a miracle. A name from the past resurfaces. Alfred Moretti, the iconic pop star of the 1990s, unexpectedly comes out of retirement. And not just that, he announces a brand new album release. The news sends shockwaves through the media. No one saw it coming. Why now? Why after so long? But that wasn't the only surprise. Moretti declares that before the album goes public, only 6 hand-picked guests will be allowed to visit his private compound for an exclusive pre-release listening session. Just 6. No cameras, no press, no crowds. And Ariel is one of them. Upon reaching the secluded compound, everything seems surprisingly pleasant. It's luxurious, peaceful, with a strangely calming energy. But then the guests are told to surrender their phones, laptops, and all electronic devices. They're informed that no digital tech is allowed inside the premises for the sake of privacy and presence. It's said with a smile, but to Ariel, something about it feels off. Her instincts are telling her this isn't just about a private album launch. Still, she keeps quiet. The party begins soon after. But this party isn't what anyone expected. As the night progresses, Ariel uncovers a disturbing truth. Moretti is part of a cult, a group that calls themselves the Levelists. And shockingly, everyone else on the compound, besides the 6 guests, a member. They all wear the same minimalist uniforms. They speak in soft, rehearsed tones. They move in sync, like they've rehearsed their very lives. The guests have been brought in for a reason, and not a good one. Ariel starts observing everything carefully. Something is terribly wrong here, and the strange behavior of the Levelists only makes her more suspicious. In the middle of all the luxury massages, food, comfort, death lurks in silence. The RJ, who was enjoying a massage, is taken away by a group of Levelists. What happens next isn't shown directly, but it becomes painfully clear he's killed brutally, with the help of some kind of machine. The sounds, the reactions, the aftermath. There's no doubt. He's gone. Ariel's fears are confirmed. This is not a normal cult. This is a trap. The next morning, new restrictions are put in place. The remaining 5 guests are now being followed constantly. Each one of them has a bodyguard, a levelist who walks beside them like a shadow. Ariel is growing increasingly irritated. She can't move freely, can't think, can't breathe. During a jog on the compound, she spots Moretti, who is having his portrait painted under the morning sun. Taking the chance, she approaches him with direct questions. She asks about the cult. What exactly do the Levelists believe in? Do they worship anyone? Do they pray like Christians in a church, Hindus in a temple, or Muslims offering namaz? Moretti chuckles at her curiosity, then counters with a cryptic question. What do you call a group that believes in nothing and worships no one? Before Ariel can respond, he invites her to join him. He leads her to a secluded section of the compounder's strange camp. There, she sees a man obsessively trying to open oyster shells with his bare hands. He's so fixated that his hands are bleeding, but he doesn't stop. He's entirely consumed by the task. Ariel asks, "What is all this supposed to mean?" Moretti explains in his calm, poetic tone that this is a symbolic act. Out of hundreds of oyster shells, only one holds a pearl, he says. And that teaches us something, that not everything in the world is equal. Ariel doesn't fully understand. She thanks him and returns to her room. The next morning, things take an even stranger turn. A group of Levelists enters Ariel's room. They inform her they're there to groom her before the evening's event. It starts off like a typical spa, session hair, dress, makeup, but then they ask something unsettling. One of them bluntly questions her about personal cleaning. Confused and slightly offended, Ariel asks why that matters. "No one's going to see me from there," she says firmly. The Levelist smiles, eerily calm, and replies, "No, they won't. But here is the rule. Man or woman, it doesn't matter. Personal cleaning matters. And Moretti has specifically sent us for this. Ariel is disturbed, but with no way to escape and no devices to call for help, she plays along. After getting dressed, she's taken to a party, but strangely, the compound is quiet now. No other guests remain, just the 5 outsiders. And then, Moretti appears, in full performance mode. He takes the stage wearing an outfit reminiscent of his pop star days, but with a surreal, almost spiritual twist. He begins to perform not just music, but something theatrical, symbolic, even ritualistic. It was no longer clear whether this was a show or the beginning of something sinister. The influencer, who had been part of the 6 invited guests, suddenly started coughing violently in the middle of the performance. Her coughing became uncontrollable, so much so that she began losing balance. The others looked on, concerned, some confused, but instead of rushing to help her, Moretti calmly asked everyone to step outside for some fresh air. "Someone else will take care of her," he said casually, as though nothing alarming had just happened. Once outside, the guests, visibly uneasy, began discussing the level list. The more they spoke, the stranger things felt. That's when Moretti shared a glimpse into his cult's philosophy. He said, "We believe that any human can become God at any moment. Anyone who invents something, creates something new, becomes divine. Even the person who first crafted a horseshoe to tame a wild horse. He too is God to us." Ariel pulled her boss aside during the conversation. Her mind was racing. This could be either big story. "What if I write an expose on this cult?" she whispered. "If we break this story, our magazine could blow up." But her boss didn't share her enthusiasm. She dismissed the idea quickly. Ariel's expression fell, but before she could say more, an arrow suddenly zipped through the air and impaled her boss's shoulder. Everyone froze. A child came running toward them, completely unbothered. "I'm sorry," he said casually. "I was practicing my aim, but my hand slipped." There was no fear on his face, no guilt, just a flat apology. The boss was badly injured. She received first aid, but her condition remained fragile. That evening, Ariel gathered the rest of the remaining guests and said what she had been feeling all along. "Don't you all think something is wrong here? They've taken our phones, our laptops, everything. We can't contact the outside world. We're being watched day and night. Who knows how many hidden cameras or mics are placed around us?" But instead of agreeing, the others laughed it off. "You think Moretti went through all this trouble just to take our phones?" one said. Ariel realized they didn't get it, or maybe they didn't want to get it. So she decided she had to escape. The next morning, she quietly slipped out through the window, dodging the guards who roamed like shadows. Her first goal: find the devices. If she could get a phone, she could call for help. She spotted a strange building on the edge of the compound. It looked different from the rest, more hidden, more guarded. She slipped inside. What she found chilled her to the core. The place resembled a rustic bar, but it was no ordinary lounge. Severed animal heads were mounted on the walls. Blood-stained tools hung in the corners. And then, finally, she found a basket filled with phones and laptops. Her phone, the others, all dumped together, was just behind her. The decaying body of RJ, the radio jockey who had disappeared earlier. Ariel grabbed her things and sprinted back to her room. She packed whatever she could and went directly to Moretti. She didn't want to wait another second. "I want to leave," she said firmly. Moretti, calm as always, smiled. "Why? Did someone say something? Did someone scare you?" Ariel ignored his questions and fired back. "Where is RJ?" Before Moretti could reply, his assistant chimed in. "He's getting ready for dinner." "And what about the influencer, the one who got sick during your show?" The assistant answered again. "She's resting in her room. I just dropped her off after a hospital visit. Her condition has improved. She'll join us tonight for the children's puppet show." Ariel didn't believe a word. "I'm leaving. Right now." Moretti tried once more to keep her calm. "Look, I won't stop you. But don't upset the children. They've been working hard on their performance. Stay until after the puppet show, and then you're free to go." A small girl, one of the levelist children, even pleaded with her, eyes wide with hope. Reluctantly, Ariel agreed. But deep down, she didn't feel right. That evening, the puppet show began. But this wasn't any ordinary show. There were no dolls, no cheerful music. Instead, 6 puppet rats were dangled on the stages, symbolizing the 6 invited guests. Ariel noticed the disturbing symbolism immediately. Her gut twisted. Then, something even worse happened. The beanbag Ariel was sitting on began to tremble beneath her. Before she could react, it burst open from inside. And from within crawled Emily, the influencer. But she didn't look the same. Her face was disfigured, her mouth was swollen, and there was unnatural puffiness around her eyes and tongue. Ariel screamed. "What happened to her?" she demanded, eyes locked on Moretti. Calmly, Moretti said, "She drank a chemical. It causes the parts of the body that retain water to swell." He walked up to Emily and touched her grotesquely bulging eye. It burst, splashing yellowish fluid onto his face. His expression twisted into disgust and rage. Now everyone knew Ariel was right. The remaining guests tried to run, but the levelists were ready. One by one, they were caught. Ariel's boss was stabbed in the stomach. Another companion was murdered without hesitation. Ariel was about to be killed too, but in a sudden act of desperation, she shoved her attacker and bolted through the window. She ran through the compound, heart pounding, and took shelter in one of the nearby buildings. It turned out to be a museum, but not the kind filled with art or culture. This was a museum of madness. There, she saw RJ's severed head on display. She realized something horrifying. This was their party plan. Sacrifice the guests and celebrate after. Before she could act, a guard entered through the bathroom window, grabbed Ariel by the hair, and smashed her head against the wall. Everything went black. When Ariel woke up, she was tied to a chair, along with one last remaining companion. They were surrounded by the levelists, including Moretti smiling, toasting, celebrating. Each held a glass of champagne. One of the levelist girls stepped forward with a glass of champagne, the same poison-laced drink that had already killed Ariel's companion moments earlier. She now approached Ariel, seemingly with the same deadly intent. But then, something strange happened. Instead of forcing the drink down Ariel's throat, she began loosening Ariel's ropes while pretending in front of everyone that she was following orders. Just then, her foot accidentally hit a fire pot placed on the stage. The flames spilled out instantly, racing across the wooden platform. The levelists scattered. Moretti, burning, let out blood-curdling screams as he flailed around, trying to extinguish the fire on his body. Amidst his chaos, Ariel saw her chance. She didn't look back. She broke into a sprint and bolted through the compound, her heart pounding in her ears. She ran through the woods, past strange huts, through the front gate and there, almost like a miracle, and fled that nightmare compound, finally saving her life. The next morning, Ariel returned with the police. But what she found was deeply disturbing. The compound, once teeming with cultists, was now eerily silent. All the levelists were gone, vanished without a trace. And there, at the center of it all, sat Alfred Moretti, burned, unharmed, calm. He was seated at his grand piano, playing it as though nothing had happened. In front of him lay the dead bodies of the 5 guests who had been killed the previous day, arranged like some twisted tribute. He didn't resist. He didn't run. The police arrested him for multiple counts of murder. And then the story moved forward. 2 years later, Ariel had become a celebrity author. Her novella, chilling retelling of her experiences inside the cult, had become a global bestseller. With hundreds of thousands of copies sold, she was now the face of fearless journalism, appearing on talk shows, podcasts, and magazine covers. Everyone knew her name. But the fame didn't bring peace. Something still haunted her. One day, she received a message. Moretti's lawyer wanted to meet her. Ariel was surprised, cautious. But she also needed answers. There were still so many questions. She arrived at the prison where Moretti was now locked up, and the moment they sat face to face, she fired her first question. "Why did you kill those people?" Moretti's expression didn't change. In a calm voice, he replied, "Because they mocked an artist. In our belief, an artist is God, and you don't mock God." Ariel then asked the question that had tormented her for months. Where did all the others go? This time, Moretti smiled not the kind that brings warmth, but the kind that chills your bones. They are still here, he said, living among you, among the people of the world, hidden, teaching others. He pulled out something from under the table, a copy of Ariel's own novel. He held it up and said, "Thank you." That's when Ariel realized the truth, a horrifying truth. She was never the survivor. She was the tool. Everything from the moment she was invited to what she witnessed to how she escaped it had all been part of Moretti's plan. Ariel sat in stunned silence as Moretti's final words echoed in her ears. You had nothing to gain. That's why we chose you, because your heart was pure. And because of you, our name, our belief is now everywhere. Ariel's face paled. She thought she had exposed a dangerous secret, but instead, she had fulfilled their prophecy. And with that, the movie ends leaving us with a chilling truth. Evil doesn't always need to force its way into the world. Sometimes, we let it in. Thank you for watching.